We'll start with the prayers. Vasudeva sutam devam kamsa chanuramarthanam devaki paramanandam krishnam vande jagatgurum. We have come to the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, titled Gunatraya Vibhaga Yoga, the analysis of three gunas, or what we call it as Prakriti, nature. The third section, if you see broadly the Bhagavad Gita, it is divided into three sections. The first section covers what is a jiva, chapter 1 to 6. Chapter 7 to 12 covers who is Ishvara. And the third section, from chapter 13 to 18, covers what is the link between the Bhagavan, Ishvara, and the jiva. We have, in the third section, we have finished a very important portion of the third section, which is chapter 13, which was titled Shaitra Kshetrajna Vibhaga Yoga. There is a very deep connection between different chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. We will see what is the connection between chapter 13 and 14. This particular chapter 14 is important because it tells us what is my mind, what is it made of, can I control my mind? If so, how do I control the mind? Most of us, we have difficulty in understanding our own mind, and we suffer a lot in the life. Tremendous suffering is there throughout our life because we don't understand what is the mind. Generally, they say you master the mind, you can master life. Here, we are saying you master Gita and you master life. Because mastering the chapter 14 of the Bhagavad Gita gives us an insight into our own mind. This is probably the most practical chapter of the entire Bhagavad Gita. If you want to study the Gita, there are different ways to study the Gita. Some people are interested to just look at how I want to study Gita because I want to improve my life. If that is your goal, then this chapter will be very useful to you. What you can do is, while studying this chapter, and we understand the gunas of the mind, you should maybe for the next 1 month, 2 months, keep a small diary with yourself and apply the knowledge you are gaining in this chapter to your own life. Just to try it out, experiment it with your own life, and then see whether it's possible to make some shift in the life, understand life better with this knowledge which you get in this chapter. We have several emotions which keep disturbing us. We don't know how to handle those emotions. Anger is one, desire is another, greed is another one, jealousy is another one, aversion is another one. So many emotions. These are all emotions in the mind. How do I look at them, stand apart from them, and see them in their own true nature. With this short introduction to the chapter 14, there are 4 verses which connect the 13th chapter with the 14th chapter. I will get into those 4 verses first, and then we will take up the 14th chapter. In the 13th chapter, a very important classification was done about my own nature. And that is, I am made up of 2 aspects. One is Prakriti, which is nature, the 5 elements. And the second is the knower of this Prakriti, the consciousness, the awareness principle, which knows this Prakriti. The consciousness principle was called as Purusha, the knower, and the body and the mind and the world are known. This is the fundamental lesson we get from chapter 13. Once you know this aspect, that I am not the body or mind, I am an eternal principle, I am an awareness principle, a consciousness principle, then I can handle the body and mind. That is the importance of this knowledge which we get from the Bhagavad Gita. This knowledge helps me to look at my own body and mind in an objective way. And this helps me to lead a peaceful and a happy life, which is the common goal, a universal goal for all of us. Now, what are the 4 verses which connect chapter 13 to chapter 14? We'll study those 4 verses and then start chapter 14. The 4 verses which connect, basically these are called as seed verses for chapter 14. Chapter 14 consists of 27 verses and it is titled Guna Traya Vibhaga Yoga. Guna Traya means 3 gunas, which is basically sattva, rajas and tamas. Vibhaga means differentiation. How do I differentiate a sattva guna, a rajo guna and a tamo guna? Right from Tattva Bodha onwards, we have understood what are the 3 gunas. In the basic text, we have understood that nature, Prakriti, consists of these 3 gunas. In chapter 13, 22nd verse, Purusha Prakriti stohi bhunkte Prakriti jan gunan karanam guna sanyosya sada sanyoni janmasu. Very clearly it says that this Purusha, that means this consciousness principle, is in this body. And it experiences the qualities which are born of Prakriti. Very important point. That means all the emotions which rise in my mind, the thoughts which rise in my mind, they are all part of Prakriti. It is nature. It is made up of 5 elements. The body is made up of 5 elements. The mind is made up of 5 elements. And the Purusha, the consciousness, is also in this body and it is experiencer. First point to understand. So jiva's association with the gunas, it creates a bondage. That means I am a jiva. I am an consciousness awareness principle. In my real intrinsic nature, I am not connected to the body. I am not connected to the mind, but whenever the body is awake, my reflection falls on this body, and then this reflected consciousness experiences joy and sorrow. This aspect I have covered many times in the previous talks, that we are all reflected consciousness, the jivatvam. The body is given a name, Lakshmi, so many names can be given. But the names belong to the body. Then what happens? The mind gets attached to the names and say, oh, then I say, oh, I am very angry. So here we have to differentiate the awareness, the consciousness principle with the name and form of the body. So Purusha is one who is seated in Prakriti. Prakriti means body and mind, and experiences the three gunas of Prakriti. Guna means it is a nature. We will understand a little bit more, but here, when the Lord taught Arjuna in the 13th chapter, he gave a small hint that Arjuna, you are not this body. Body is acting, it will have certain events in life, and that's all. Don't get attached to the events. Understand you are the awareness principle and completely distinctly different than the body. And if you see the second portion of this verse, it says that this attachment to the body or identification that this body is me is the cause of birth and death. Such an important information we get from the Bhagavad Gita. First of all, I don't know I am consciousness. I am awareness principle. I can exist without the body and mind. That's the first lesson. The second lesson is, if I don't know this knowledge, if I'm not having this understanding, I am in ignorance. I am ajnani. Then I will be like any other normal person, and I will say my life is going on, and we are identified with it, and then we become and take another body. That is a cycle of birth and death. Purusha means the original consciousness. Jiva means reflected consciousness. Purusha means God, Bhagavan. It is not, we can't see that principle, but we can see, we can come to know the expression of that in our lives, because that is the life principle in us. The consciousness or awareness is ultimate life principle in this body, and that is a reflection of that Bhagavan. So whenever I say I am a jiva, I was born on so and so date, mainly I'm referring to this this reflected consciousness. And this reflected consciousness gets association with Prakriti, with nature. And nature consists of three gunas. So whenever we say there is a birth of a baby in the house, that means there is a reflection of that consciousness principle which is born. The body is given by nature, but the reflection is the original reflection of Bhagavan. The combination of nature, which is Prakriti, and Purusha is the Jiva. So there are two associations which are there. One is Prakriti has an association with Purusha, because without that there is no world, there is no body, there is no mind. And this connection is with Ishvara. It is Ishvara who makes this body born in a certain family. Because we are supposed to be linked with the other family members. So that is all the job of Ishvara. There is a law which governs this entire universe. This is one type of association. The second association is that the Prakriti itself has got three gunas, and the Jiva gets connected with the three gunas, which is Prakriti. In verse number 27, now these 2 points is what is being elaborated here in the 27th verse. Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam kshetrak nyo sangat tad viddhi bharatashava. This is what I was explaining now, that always the kshetram or kshetrakya, that's Purusha and Prakriti, together they form this body and the world. And Ishvara, what is the role of Ishvara? The Ishvara is the principle who gives this association of the Jiva with a particular body. And the second verse, which is the very important verse of the 13th chapter, which I repeat again and again, Idam shariram kaunteya shaitra ityami dhyate etat yo vetitum prahuhu shetraknam iti tatvidaha. This is an important verse because what Lord Krishna teaches here is, always throughout my life, I must distinguish the Kshetram and Kshetrakya. That means, what is this body, what is this mind, and what is this consciousness which knows this body? Consciousness is not the body. Consciousness is not the mind, but it is a knower. It is an indweller in the body. And there is a power behind it. It's a huge power. This power itself creates the whole, the universe. The field was called as Kshetram. Just a revision of last chapter. I'm still looking at trying to remember some of the things which we learned in the last chapter. So the whole field is made up of nature, Prakriti, but it is insentient, inert. See, we see mountains, we see rivers, we see buildings, we see earth, we see planets. All these are inert by nature. They don't have sentiency. The sentiency is the Kshetrakya, that pure awareness. And all of us can realize this nature of ours. That is the ultimate goal of studying the Bhagavad Gita. I am this pure consciousness. In me, this whole body, mind, world keeps coming and going, exactly like the dream comes in the waker's mind. A dream comes where? Ultimately, where does the dream world exist? All in the waker's mind. Similarly, the waker and his waking world exists in consciousness. The 35th verse, Kshetraknyayorevam antaram jnanu chakshusha bhuta prakriti moksham cha ye viduryanti te param. One who clearly knows what is this Prakriti, And what is this awareness principle? He is the one who gets liberated in life. Liberated means what? Liberated means I don't feel that I am bound to this body. I don't feel that I am the one who is experiencing all these emotions which keep coming. They are all there, but then I am not the one. I am only an awareness, consciousness. I'm aware of that. So that distance is created between the mind and the consciousness, between the body and the consciousness. So by studying the 13th chapter, the practical benefit which I get is I come to realize that I am a different order of reality. I am only an observer of this body. And I don't have any death. I don't have any birth as the consciousness. And when the Lord says that He is there in this body, in all the bodies, I learn to identify with that Lord, which is called as this consciousness, and say, I am one with this Lord. Not after death of the body, but while living, I come to realize I am one with the Lord, who is the creator of the entire universe. So the one who differentiates what is Prakriti, what is Purusha, he is the one who gets liberated. That was the final message of the 13th chapter. The 14th chapter consists of three main topics. The first one is it teaches us that there is a samyoga. There is an association with the Purusha of Prakriti. That is one topic. Then the second topic is it discusses what are the three gunas. That means this Prakriti or nature consists of knowledge, which is called as sattva, action, which is called as rajas, and third is inertia, which is called as tamoguna. Together they form these three gunas. Together the name given to that is Prakriti. And you will see that this Prakriti, the nature of this three gunas is there in the entire creation. If you take a stone, it is tamoguna predominant. If you take some plants, they have a little bit of sattva guna, very, very minuscule. If you take the animals, they have a higher sattva guna and but a little bit higher only compared to the plants. But they have a lot of rajoguna. Then the last is the human being who has got a good proportion of sattva, rajas, and tamas. And understanding these three gunas in the mind of our own in our own mind is the crux of this chapter. When am I sattvic? Whenever we are, and what are the aspects of this sattva guna? How do they bind me? Those are all we are going to study. And then the third topic is moksha. Moksha means what? I do not identify with these three gunas as me or mine. They belong to Prakriti. The Prakriti means the nature is controlled by Ishvara or God. There is one God, one power which controls this entire universe. And knowing this nature of Prakriti, that automatically liberates me, means it tells me I am not connected with this whole events which keep happening in my life. I look at them, I do those, whatever has to be done in life, I do it. There is no problem. But I create a distance, a space between the activities which happen and me, the awareness principle. Like all chapters, I generally tell you what is the overall scheme in which the verses are organized. 27 verses are there into 6 sections, as I can show you before this. This is just a bird's eye view of what we are going to study in this chapter. The first 2 verses tells us the importance of self knowledge. Knowing who I am frees me from the cycle of birth and death. So you can imagine what is the value of this knowledge. Do I want to come back into this world again and again and go through the pains of the body, pains of the mind, and go through the whole motion of life and death? Or do I want to just say, oh, I've had enough? Let me see if there is any other way to come out of this cycle, which is called as samsara. So in the first 2 verses, the Lord explains the importance of this knowledge. Then in 3rd and the 4th verse, like in many other chapters, he teaches us what is this creation, how does the creation happen, and here he says, I am the seed in the womb of the universe. Very important portion. He explains to us in our own language. We all understand how human beings are born. So he is explaining to us that I am that consciousness is that one principle in which the whole universe comes and goes. And whenever the universe is seen, as in the waking state, we see this whole universe, we see the body, we see the mind, everything is acting. This is 1/3 of our life, or one portion of our life, the waking state. We have the dream state, we have the sleep state. And beyond these 3 states is this Purusha, this Lord, in whom all this is happening. So the verse number 3 and 4 tells us how creation comes about. Then verse 5 to 18 is the crux of this whole chapter. 14 verses. It tells us what is the definition of sattva guna, rajas guna, and tamo guna. It tells us how do they bind us to this body when they are active. Then what is the sign by which I can know that this guna is acting in my mind? So guna is something which controls the mind. A sattva guna dominated mind means that we are caught up in a certain nature of the 5 elements. Rajoguna means I am again caught up in a certain nature, a mode. The mind's 3 modes. All of us, we go through these 3 modes throughout our life. These 3 modes can change rapidly. Suddenly I am in the mode of sattva. All my sense organs are bright. They are very, very powerful. They want to learn the knowledge of the world. Then some news comes. I get to know that I need to rush somewhere. Rajoguna takes over. So from sattva, you rush into action. Then in the evening, when you're tired, the body says, no, enough of the day. Mind says, let's go to sleep. That is what is called as tamoguna. So the three moods of the mind are all governed by these three nature: sattva, rajas, tamas. We must understand these three words. They are technical in nature. I will go through these, and whenever they are there, you understand this, because in the next few chapters, especially in the 17th and the 18th chapter, we are going to study the same three gunas again. 15th chapter is again talking about the Lord. The 16th chapter talks about how to gain values in life, good values, and how to drop all the negative values. The 17th and the 18th chapters talk about the three gunas again. So in this section 5 to 18, it also says that the type of mind I have before leaving this body decides what type of body I will take in my next birth. Very, very descriptive portion here. And it says what is the travel after death and what is the consequence in this life. So these are the sections. The main section is between 5 to 18, 14 verses. 19 and 20, how to transcend the gunas. That means, do I say that I have to live with this gunas throughout my life? Or is there any way I can say, no, I don't want to be so rajasic in life. I don't want to be so tamasic. Tamasic means very lazy. Is there a way? So there are two verses which gives us how do I get out of this lethargy? How do I get rid of my tendency to keep on acting all my life? You will find many people are there who are great doers of action. Throughout the day, they just want to have action and action and action and action. Is there any rest for me? If so, what do I have to do to become sattvic? Sattvic means peaceful, happy in life. And a person who has conquered his mind is given a title in this chapter, and that title is Guna Tita. Atita means beyond the gunas. And he is the one who gets the freedom from future birth. This repeated life cycle, he crosses that. Then Arjuna asked this question to Lord, is there any way I can try to find out that a person is a gunatita and another person is still bound by gunas? That is the question Arjuna had. Because Arjuna got very, very excited. He said, wow, this is fantastic. I can control my mind. After having this knowledge of these three gunas which control the mind, if I come to know that I am someone separate from this, I am the witness consciousness, that is something which I never heard before. And if this can happen, how do I see it in the people? How can I learn? This is a very similar section like the Sthita Prajna Lakshana of the second chapter, which came from 54th verse onwards in the second chapter up to the 72nd verse in the second chapter. So whatever was the Sthita Prajna Lakshanam, here it is described in 5 verses as gunatita lakshana. The main point you should understand is that a person who has learned to control the mind, he knows first of all he is Atma, he is a Sakshi. So the ego in us, the I-ness which is there of a Ajnani, see, for example, if I don't know about this Atma, I can never come out of the identification with the mind. That is the beauty of Bhagavad Gita. It tells me something which I don't know. It teaches me something which I don't know. And I can learn it. I can understand. Whoever it may be. If you want, you can learn because that is our nature. So this Gunatita, he is unaffected by the pleasure and pain, praise and censure, honor and dishonor. These are all the qualities of the mind. And the Gunatita, the person who knows the activity of the gunas, he knows that it is all Prakriti which is acting. I am the pure consciousness. And then towards the end, Bhagavan again teaches Arjuna how to become a Gunatita. How to, okay, you have taught me all this about the mind, but then how does one get control? He says bhakti is the way to drop our mind and become immortal and become one with that bliss. There is a bliss available in this universe. It is there. I'm not aware of it. I don't even know how to approach that bliss. It says bhakti. Through bhakti. Bhakti means what? You have love for freedom. Love to be in control of the mind. Love for that consciousness, awareness principle, to know more about it, because that eventually that is my nature. If I know that while living, it's the life becomes very easy. Because it is the mind which troubles me, nothing else in the world. It is my own mind which keeps on telling me you are this, you are this, you are suffering, you are doing this and that and this. It is the talk which is going on inside ourselves. How to come out of this self-talk which happens throughout my life? Many people don't know. They are all suffering because of the lack of this knowledge about the witness consciousness. That Atma, which is pure in nature. If I can derive the self, identification of the self, if I can derive from that Atma, instead of this body which is dying, or this mind which is giving me a lot of problems, I will be able to lead a peaceful life. So in short, this is a very practical chapter, very good chapter. Let's all get ready to understand our own mind and tell ourselves, yes, there is a way to understand and be in control of this mind. It's possible. Let's go with full confidence that yes, I will understand my mind. All the idiosyncrasies which happen in the mind, I will keep noting it down. I will first identify the problem. Then I will know how to deal with it. But if I don't even know how to identify, that becomes a problem. So this chapter is to help us identify why we suffer through our mind. Body sufferings, we can't do much. We have a disease, we don't have a disease. Sometimes the health of the body changes. For that, there is no medicine. I mean, there is only medicines can help us, and that area is not what is being touched here. The three gunas mainly refer to the mind, the subtle body. How, and all of us have this. It is not that you have a, you, and all of us have a combination of the three gunas. So with this background, let us enter the first verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Param Bhuya Pravakshyami Jnananam Jnanamuttamam Yajñātvā Munayas Sarve Param Siddhimito Gataha. So here the Lord himself takes the initiative and he tells Arjuna, I will declare to you the supreme knowledge, the best of the knowledges. And why does it say this is a supreme knowledge? Because with this knowledge, you can attain supreme perfection. All the sages in the past have attained it. You too can attain this. So this is an advertisement for this chapter. Makes Arjuna listen first, brings his attention. He creates an inspiration and an enthusiasm in Arjuna. And he says there are sadhanas, disciplines, which will help you to understand this supreme knowledge. We have seen so far, there are two types of disciplines to follow in life. One is called as Bahir Anga Sadhana. That means discipline at the external level. And the second is called as Antar Anga Sadhana. Bahir Anga mainly refers to the Karma Yoga, Upasana Yoga. When I do this Karma Yoga, that means all of you who have studied the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, 4, and 5, those are all Karma Yoga specific. That means I try to lead a simple life of duty. I do my duty. Upasana means I contemplate. I take certain verses of the Bhagavad Gita and contemplate on it. This is what is called as Bahiranga. Antaranga means I do intense study. And that study is basically Shravanam, Mananam, Nididhyasana. This is a focused study to understand the consciousness, the awareness principle, the Sakshi in me. So these are the two types of sadhanas. Mainly they are meant for the supreme knowledge, to gain that knowledge of Atma. This knowledge was called as Brahma Vidya. Right from the second chapter, fourth chapter, fifth chapter, sixth chapter, 7, 9, 13, we have studied what is Brahma Vidya. Brahma Vidya means, like I explained in the beginning, we are all made up of two components. One is the consciousness, the second is the Prakriti. The knowledge of the consciousness in us is called as Brahma Vidya. When I get this knowledge, I get Uttama Phalam. Uttama Phalam means very, very high benefit. The highest benefit I can get in this world is not by earning money or earning some name, fame, and so on, but by getting this knowledge, I get the highest benefit. Why is it? Because whatever I earn in this life, I don't take it with me. I come empty handed in this world and I go back empty handed. But what remains with me is my mind. It takes on another body. How to purify this mind, how to know the nature of the mind, and what lies beyond the mind. That is what is called as Brahma Vidya. And a Muni means what? A person who reflects on this teaching. That is why I said throughout this 14th chapter of 27 verses, keep on applying to yourself. Today I have learned, okay, there is a consciousness in me, and there is a mind which is controlled by Prakriti, which is made up of three gunas. Let me start identifying slowly what is this mind. So when I identify with the body, mind, and the intellect, that is what is called as the ego I, ahamkara. So there are two things, sakshi and ahamkara. Sakshi is the consciousness, chaitanyam is a new identification which I learn after learning the Bhagavad Gita. And identifying with that sakshi or chaitanyam, which is called as paravidya, supreme knowledge, I get liberated from the cycle of birth and death. Whereas if I keep identifying myself with the body and mind all the time, I am bound to the mind and body. And and the Bhagavad Gita says that you will be reborn again. That's all. So they are telling us the two methodologies, how to come out of the cycle of birth and death and how to remain in this cycle. In this first verse, Bhagavan glorifies the teaching and says, never doubt this knowledge. Don't think that this knowledge is all some vague ideas in some Indian scriptures. No. He says, don't have the doubt. Don't get confused by others' opinions. This is the truth. Know the truth and get liberated. That was the first verse. Idam jnanamupashritya mama sadharmyam agataha sarge pinopajayante pralayena vatanti cha. If you take refuge in this knowledge, if you understand this knowledge, you are neither born at the time of creation, neither you get disturbed at the time of dissolution. See what promises Lord Krishna makes in these chapters. Very, very profound knowledge. Abiding in this knowledge of Sakshi, Chaitanyam, gives the jiva the liberation from the identification with the body. Awareness or consciousness is our nature. I'm going slightly digressing from here so that I want you to get a feel of what is this consciousness we are talking about. What is it? You know, it's just words and words and words. In Mandukya Upanishad, it clearly says that I am this pure awareness. And the way the Mandukya Upanishad analyzes is very beautiful. It says that we have three states: waking, dream, and sleep. So instead of starting from this waking state, Mandukya Upanishad says you start from your sleep state, where the Mandukya Upanishad says you are one with Ishvara in that state. You are one with that pure consciousness. And what you are in your sleep state is your true nature. That means beyond the sleep state, the one who is identifying, because we all live. Our life is what? Life is not only the waking state, not only the dream which we experience, but it is also the sleep which we experience. So in the sleep state, what happens is I'm not aware of this body. There's no identification with this body as me or mine. There is no identification of the mind because it has become passive. And all of us go through this state. What happens in that state? I am one with the Creator. I merge with the Creator. And then I am in the Swarupam of the Creator, which is this Atma. Pure awareness. So that pure awareness, in that pure awareness, pure consciousness, which is timeless, spaceless, bodiless, mindless, that is the real nature. It is my real nature. And in that pure consciousness, I have a waking state in which there is a body which has a mind, and that mind is powered by this consciousness to go through some events in life. Joy and sorrow. Again, the mind becomes passive. The body identification is dropped. The mind joins Ishvara and one becomes one with that consciousness. In between, another world of dream is projected. Again, you drop the dream world. Again, you come back and become one consciousness. This is the vision of Mandukya Upanishad. To understand what is my real nature. This chapter is trying to teach us exactly the same. How to drop this mind which has got these three gunas and then know that I am this pure consciousness. Kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata kshetra kshetrajnyo jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. I am that knower of the body. I am not the body. So Bhagavan says he is in every body as the knower of the field. The field is what? The whole universe is the field. In this universe called as the field, the body is also part of that field. The mind is also a part of that field. I am that consciousness which is illuminating this field. For the jiva who is in this body to undergo certain experiences in life according to the principle of law of karma. The body and mind follow the law of karma, but Sakshi has no law of karma. The consciousness principle doesn't have any law of karma. Ahamkara is the I sense in this body. Now, this is the I sense which is attached to the body and the mind. It learns to identify with the Sakshi. This is how the process of liberation happens. Sakshi means that pure consciousness. It never is born. But this the moment I wake up in the morning, I just go through the motion of the body. But this I asks this question, who is this I in this body? Vichara is important. In advanced texts of Vedanta, the teacher always says, you must inquire. Who is this which is talking in the body? Who is going through all this turmoils in the body? Inquire, find out. By inquiry, by vichara, then you will learn more and more clearly that there is another principle, which is the observing principle of this ego. When this happens, the jiva drops the jivatvam. That means the ego learns to drop the I-ness of attachment to the body. And it becomes one with the consciousness principle, which is the higher nature in this universe itself. Like, for example, a dreamer, he knows that he is not the dreamer, but he is the waker. And then the whole dream world disappears. For him, whoever is the waker, his own dream world drops. Similarly, whoever is the waker, for him, when he rises to the knowledge of that pure consciousness, for him or her, then the waking itself is just like another dream. It was there, it is there, it came and it went away. That's all. Like your events of yesterday or day before yesterday. In the waking state, if I ask you today, what happened in the last 2 days? You'll say, well, it just came and went. The waking state just went and came and went. That's it. Certain experiences I had and then it just went away. That's all. So similarly, every day will go like that. So in this, what is the role of this Sakshi is what is in this chapter explained beautifully. So Bhagavan gives a complete freedom to identify with the Bhagavan in this universe. That means he says, you are one with me. You come and join me. I am that consciousness. And by doing this, what will happen? You are free from the 6 modifications which we learned in the Tattva Bodha. Asti, Jayate, Vardate, Viparinamate, Apakshiyate, Vinashyati. Asti means existence in the womb of the in the womb of the mother. Jayate means you're born. The body gets born. Vardate means it keeps on growing. Viparinamate means there is a level at a time when it neither grows, neither it is declining. That is what is the stable condition from the age of 35 to 45. Apakshiyate means it starts declining. The body cells, they decline. Then what happens? Vinashyati. So in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, what I explained to you just now was explained the 3 states, and you are not any of the ego states, but you are the pure consciousness. You are Atma. That is what is said in this verse. So what is this freedom? This freedom is attained when we know the absolute nature of this body, mind, and the universe. There is only one entity from where all this entire universe is coming and going, and that is this consciousness. There is a cosmic will. Why do you think we are in a particular family with a few siblings and our own children? Why? This is what is called as the cosmic will of Ishvara. He puts certain jivas together in a family. And we all experience a particular field. For example, you live in India or in Singapore or in America or in London, wherever you are, or Malaysia. So what happens is you are in a particular field and this is under the control of Ishvara. And there is a condition which is called as consciousness. This consciousness is also given a name Brahman. Don't worry about the names, but they are all one entity. From where this entire universe is coming and going. That is the pure consciousness. And as a jiva, I learn to drop that reflection of that consciousness, and I say I am the original consciousness, which is the nature of Ishvara. It is not difficult. The moment I learn to drop that I am not the body or mind, you tell yourself in meditation or just close your eyes and you say, I am the pure Sakshi. This consciousness will realize the oneness with that pure truth. And like I said, that there is a Ishvara Sankalpa who makes this combination of Prakriti and Purusha to happen. That reflection, who puts all that? Who is the controller of the waking, dream and sleep state? It is not this body, it is not this mind, there is some controller. There is a power. That power is there in this universe. And that power is called as the power of consciousness. It is one power which is felt in all the bodies and all the minds. It is that power which makes our sense organs work and look at the world. It is that power which makes the ears hear. It is that power which makes my mind think. So here what Bhagavan says is, he is the facilitator for this entire world to come and go. The next two verses, we will be seeing a little bit more detail about creation. What happens? How does this creation come about? Mama yonir mahat brahma tasmin garbham dadamyaham sambhava sarva bhutanam tato bhavati bharata. So now you should understand that there is one pure consciousness which is called as Brahman. There is one womb. What Bhagavan says here is that he says, I place the germ in that womb. And then the beings are born. So Ishvara is the father of creation, the spirit behind creation. And what is Prakriti, the five elements? The five elements is the womb, the mother of creation. Hiranyagarbha, the matter principle. So when the reflection of that pure consciousness, that Ishvara, that reflection falls on this five elements, this Prakriti. Now we are talking about at that cosmic level, how creation happens. Then he says the creation comes about. This is what we have seen in the 13th chapter also, in verse 20 and 27. There it was said, Yavat sanjayate kinchit sattvam stavara jangamam shaitra kshetrakniyo sangha tadvidhi bharatarshava. That means by the combination of this consciousness and the five elements, the creation comes. And in this creation, the Prakriti, that consciousness is there seated in this universe made up of matter. We have seen these verses before, so I'm just running through that. Now, this Prakriti is a word. You have come across this word many times in the Bhagavad Gita, many times in the Upanishads, and there are several names given to this. I have put together so that you understand and you are able to link whenever you have heard these 12 names, you should know that they all belong to matter. It belongs to nature, which consists of three gunas. The first name is Maya. Second is avidya, ignorance. Avyakta means unmanifest. Pradhanam, this is one of the terms used by Sankhya, the logicians. Shakti, another name. Ajnanam, another name for ignorance. Aksharam, imperishable. Trigunatmika, containing three gunas. Akasha, Karana Upadhi. Karana Shariram, Karana Upadhi. Abhyakrita, Ishvara Upadhi. These are all names of the same Prakriti. And what is Prakriti? Prakriti is a state of non-expression. Very beautiful definition. It cannot describe itself. Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, they are all in equilibrium. Samya Avastha. It cannot be felt by the senses because it is avyaktam. Avyaktam means it is invisible. And it is always of the nature of delusion. It can delude us all the time. Because the mind is the one which plays tricks, right? All the time. It tells you go here, go there, and it will be happy, you will be happy. But then once you go there, you feel that the joy, what you promised, it was not there. It is of the nature of ignorance. Why is it of the nature? Why is this Prakriti doesn't, it is of the nature of ignorance? Because it doesn't know the real nature of this Prakriti is that Purusha. Because without that Purusha, Prakriti does not exist. So in this Samya Avastha, when the three Sattva, Rajas and three Gunas are in equilibrium, it is Avyakritam. Avyakritam means there is no formation of anything. Formation means that no, it is an unmanifest condition, exactly like what we experience in our sleep. In our sleep, there is ignorance. There is some feeling of us, there is some feeling that I was sleeping, that's all. That is what is called as Prakriti. This Prakriti is destroyed by Jnanam. Jnanam of what? Jnanam of Atma. All the names and forms, that means the body, it has got a certain shape, all of them, they end in Prakriti. That means what? When we go to sleep, we go and join our causal body, which is called as Karana Shariram. From that Karana Shariram, see, we all know that we have this gross body because it is visible. The subtle body is invisible. We don't know. There is some mind, we know. It creates problem for us. Because of that, I think, but we don't know much about that mind. Beyond this mind, this subtle body, if you have gone through the Tattva Bodha, you will know there is a causal body. That causal body is made up of three gunas. That causal body provides the instruments for experience. That means from that causal body, from that Prakriti. See, Prakriti is just not nature as what we see outside. It is what we see is only a gross form of nature. But there is a power. Behind this gross form, there is a power. That power is what is called as Prakriti. So the names which are given, I've given you certain why they are called as Akasha, because it gives space. It accommodates everything. It gives, it is called as Karana Upadhi because it is a cause of the entire waking and the dream world. From this ignorant state of the causal nature, the entire world comes. For all of us, the whole creation is born from that sleep state. From the sleep state, the whole creation is coming in the Jagrat, and again it resolves. Again it comes from that sleep state, again it resolves. So if you keep that sleep state as the reference point, you will easily understand what is manifestation in the waking and what is unmanifestation in the sleep. This concept is very important when you want to understand your nature. If you miss out this manifestation of the waking world, manifestation of the dream world from that ignorant state, then you would not understand what lies beyond that ignorant state, which is what is called as consciousness. So the ocean is the cause of the wave. Gold is the cause of the rings. The cause is always larger and the karyam is always smaller. For the whole universe, the Lord says, I am the cause. He is the seed. And he places a seed in Maya. Maya means Prakriti, which means the 5 elements. So the whole creation, which we see as nature, has come about from that one cause, which is consciousness or awareness. That is what we should understand from this verse. Maya consists of 3 gunas, and the 3 gunas are inert. They are matter principle. They cannot function by themselves. They require a sentiency. That sentiency, that power, is called as consciousness. Like electricity, in a bulb, it glows. In a fan, it rotates. In a mic, it can expand the sound. In fridge, it can keep things cold. It's one electricity, but different forms. So similarly, this consciousness is one, but it comes and expresses as the 3 gunas. The 3 gunas cannot exist without consciousness. With the Prakriti cannot exist without the fan. You cannot call it a fan unless until it rotates. So without that electricity, you can't call it a fan. It is just a piece of instrument. Like the sun which reflects in water, the water then starts shining. Similarly, consciousness shines in this body of 5 elements, and then it starts shining. That shining is called as Chidabhasa. That shining is called as activation. For example, I said in the sleep state, you are the pure consciousness without ignorance, because you now have the knowledge that I am Atma. I am not the Karana Shariram, but I am Atma. The pure nature of consciousness, which is a reflection in that ignorant state, is what I experience as sleep. So there is a God, there is a consciousness principle, which is the impeller of this whole universe. That will of God that gets reflected in this whole universe, and then the whole universe comes into play. So that is what is explained in another Upanishad, Taittiriya Upanishad. It's the same message which is given here, that Lord desired that he will be born as so many beings. And it is his reflection which is the living force, which is the life force in all of us. Awareness consciousness, which is the God principle, is the life force in this body. Whatever we call it as Maya, it consists of a reflection and it consists of Prakriti. That means in my body, there is a reflection of pure awareness, which is called as the father aspect in the creation. The body is made up of 5 elements, that is the mother aspect. So the reflection of consciousness together with these 5 elements, which is this body, that combination is the jiva. And it is the same with all the bodies, and it is the same with the entire creation. This reflection is what is called as shaitra, the knowing principle, the consciousness principle. And the 5 elements is called as the Prakriti. The body, mind, senses, all of them are only Prakriti. Prakriti means the 5 elements, which is inert by nature. And this combination happens only because of a Ishvara's will. That we must be very clear. And that is why whenever you ask the question, why this life, why this body, there is no answer, because this is Ishvara's creation. So this verse talks about how the creation comes about by a joining of matter and consciousness. Next week, we are going to see this 4th verse, which is a continuation of the creation topic. And then we will start understanding the gunas and the mind and all that. So right now, Bhagavan is just preparing the ground of how overall creation comes, and how in this creation, there are 2 aspects. One is the consciousness, which is the Sakshi principle, and the second is the matter principle. The matter principle is what is the mind, which we will study as 3 gunas. So I will take up the 4th verse next week, and then we'll see how to go about it, because afterwards you'll get a complete analysis of the 3 gunas. And once the 3 gunas come, it will be very interesting, because that is what is the crux. And that knowledge of the 3 gunas will help you to handle the life better. So I'll stop here, and we'll continue next week. The 4th verse is where we will start next week. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnahat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. If you have any questions, you can post it on the chat. If you have any questions, you can unmute and ask now.
Sekhaji,
Yeah.
As you were saying, the 3 gunas, is it?
Yes.
It goes into rotation, right? It
Yes.
won't remain at the same place.
Yes.
So how to control it to remain one place?
Yes, that we will study after next week. Next week we will study that. The moment we come to know what are these 3 gunas, that means I have these 3 gunas in my mind. Now, how to control the 3 gunas is how it is only by the knowledge of Atma.
You were saying bhakti or what? You were saying bhakti or what?
Yes, bhakti. You see, bhakti is the last portion. But before getting into the last portion, Bhagavan is teaching us, bhakti means what? I have a love for Bhagavan. And Bhagavan means what? Bhagavan or God means that there is a consciousness that life in me is Bhagavan. That life is what is given to me by Bhagavan. So by bhakti, that means I have the knowledge that there is Bhagwan in this body. There is a higher power. I am not a small individual, but I have to learn that nature of Bhagwan who is there in me. That consciousness is what is the study which we'll do after two sessions. That with the knowledge that there is that Bhagwan in this body, I will come to realize the three gunas. Without the knowledge of Bhagwan, without the knowledge of Atma, you can never know the mind. Because the seer, the one who knows this mind is Bhagwan.
So through devotion, they call it,
yes,
is it?
Through devotion. Yes, exactly. You got it.
Then, Secretary, I have to ask this question regarding, those who are self-realized persons or jnanis or whatever.
Yeah.
Do they still have with them a tip of gunas in them?
Yeah. There is no person who doesn't have gunas. Everybody has gunas in life. This body means guna. Without when you see a body, it means there is three gunas are there in them.
But if it's a self-realized person, how?
Yeah, if he's a self-realized person, then he is not identified with the gunas as himself. That you cannot know. You see, for example, what you think as you are, nobody will know. Suppose you say, I think I am the body, then that is what everybody thinks, that he is the body first, As far as you are concerned, you are seeing his body, you are seeing that body is acting. So till the end of the body, the gunas will be active. That means Prakriti will be active in the body. So your question is, does a jnani have three gunas? Yes, he has the three gunas, but he will be more sattva. Sattva means he is more knowledge oriented. He is more aware of his consciousness. Whereas you may be not so aware of the consciousness, you may be very aware of the body acting. All the time you're acting, you're just seeing the body is acting today, it has got to go here, his body is going there. He will watch his body, he will not say that this is my body. You and I will say this is my body, I am acting. But Jnani will say, body is acting, I am not the body, but he will not tell you. In his mind, he will say that. He will think like that.
That means he is not affected by rajas or whatever.
Yes, he is not affected by the rajas of the mind. Whereas you and I, because of ignorance, we take the mind to be me. Then we suffer. This chapter is all about knowing the mind. As soon as you wake up, you should say, the body has woken up. The mind is woken up, not me. I am the Sakshi, which is always awake.
Just awareness only.
Yes, it is awareness. I am the awareness. Even in sleep, the mind is sleeping. I am aware the mind is sleeping. I am aware that the body is resting.
So we are just the seers.
Yes, that's correct. Very good. I'm glad that you're applying the knowledge.
Thank you.
Thank you. Who else is there? Anybody else has a question? Yeah, but tell me.
So my question is, I just want you to say that if my statement is correct. So if we take the apara vidya in the whatever exists in the world, that it is useful or applicable only during the waking state, and during the deep sleep state or otherwise in the swapna state, it doesn't have much of a effect, or otherwise, is that correct? The statement is correct?
Yeah, it's correct. Yes.
So now the question is,
Yeah,
if that is applicable for the aparavidya,
yeah.
what will be the equivalent for the paravidya? Does it have an effect on the swapna state as well as the sushupti state?
No. Yeah, okay. Your question is very, very deep question. See, what happens with paravidya is, paravidya is like a lamp. It's like a lamp which is illuminating a stage. Whatever happens in the stage, the lamp is not affected. Suppose you're seeing a drama in a theater, and in a theater, and there is a light in the top. That light is compared to the sakshi. This is an example from Panchadasi, chapter 10. There's a very great teacher who is called as Vidyaranya, who has given this example in the 10th chapter of a text called as Panchadasi. Now, in that, he compares the lamp and he says the lamp is like the sakshi. It is only the awareness principle, it is only illuminating whatever is going on in the stage. So, the buddhi is compared to the thoughts, which is always dancing. The buddhi's thoughts is dancing in the waking state. The buddhi is a dance which is dancing in the dream state. And then the dance stops because the dancer is tired. The buddhi is tired, it stops. What happens is the illuminator consciousness, the light which is there on the top is always shining. When the dance is going on, it illumines the waking state, it illumines aparavidya. Again, dream state is again aparavidya. It keeps on illuminating. Suppose that a dream has stopped, it gets into and illumines the waking. After the waking stops, it again goes to sleep. Again, that Atma illumines the sleep state, in which there is no world. Again, the dream comes, sleep comes. Again, the dream, waking, dream. These are the three scenes which are going on in the drama. Consciousness, awareness is always eternally there. Nothing happens to it. It is a screen. It is a screen which all the three movies are going on. It comes, the movies are coming and going, but the screen remains unaffected by whatever happens in the world. The world is only aparavidya, it is the Prakriti. The show is all of Prakriti. Your mind is acting, it is doing so many actions, then it goes to sleep. And then it again wakes up in the dream and shows you another world. But in all this, there is a consciousness, the light in which all this is happening. Suppose the light is not there, no drama is possible, no waking is possible, no dream is possible, no sleep is possible. And this light is me, that is my nature. I am not this body. The body is given to Prakriti. It is handed over to Ishvara and say, Ishvara, now you take care of the body. Ishvara, you take care of the mind. I have surrendered to you. This is called as Sharanagati. This is where bhakti comes in. It helps you to surrender this lower nature of ours. And then you say, Bhagavan, now you have taught me who I am in the Bhagavad Gita. I want to remain with this nature of mine in my life. Inwardly, you tell yourself, nothing to tell anybody else. It is your own internal cognition which happens. And then you see how life flows for you. Very smooth. It will just happen. Events will just come and go. That's all. You will remain aloof because of this knowledge, and you have surrendered to a higher principle. The surrender, Sharanagati, is extremely important because that is what bhakti. Lord, in the 27th verse, he says, bhakti is the method. Bhakti means what? This ego I bring it down and I say, this ego is not me. That is what is called as bhakti. The moment you say this ego is not me, bhakti is already in place. Bhakti doesn't mean you have to go to the temple and break a coconut and pray to a god there and come back home. No, that is you do for worldly purposes. I want to have a promotion. I want to have a good life. I want to have children. I want to do that. Is all. Bhagwan does that. Bhagwan gives you the blessing and things happen. That is different type of bhakti. Here the bhakti is identification. Identification that this ego which is coming in the morning and troubling me, I should do all this work. But the problem is that you can't even drop this. We all have to live our life. Living our life, we have to be Jivan Mukta. Means I take the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita, and the 14th chapter helps me to understand this mind very, very clearly. Whenever there is too much of pressure in the mind, remember the knowledge of the 14th chapter. It is Rajas which is active. I am the Sakshi, aware of this Rajas. That is how we should understand. I think I've now explained to you that Apara and Paravidya.
I think I agree with you what you have said, which is from the context of Atma, whatever happens.
Yeah, but what are you saying?
Okay. So from the context of from the point of view of Atma, the waking state, the sleep state, or the dream state, or the deep sleep state are just as the passing through. They come and go like that.
Yes.
How you are saying?
Sorry?
There is some disturbance there.
Yeah. So from the Atma standpoint, what was the last portion of the question?
No, I agree with you what you said. From the Atma point of view, all this is happening and Atma is not affected by that. So just stay and associate with the Atma. Forget about the fluctuations which are going on. That's what you are saying. Agree.
Exactly. That's right. That is the teaching of the Upanishad, which is what is the teaching of the 14th chapter also. When you study the Gunatita portion, that is exactly the same thing which Lord will teach us in the Gunatita portion. Don't get worried with your gunas of the mind. Remain as a sakshi.
But my question was slightly different from that. My question was, I will again recapture that question. Say if the Aparavidya doesn't, it has only effect on the waking state. It doesn't have an effect on the sleep state or the deep sleep state. Similarly, my question
Aparavidya is there as ignorance in the sleep state.
Correct. Right. Now, question is, does Paravidya has an effect? We know Paravidya has an effect on the waking state because our mind changes, our behavior changes, everything happens during the waking state. So that I agree that the Paravidya changes.
No, Paravidya does not change.
Paravidya doesn't change. No, Paravidya doesn't change, but Paravidya changes me, the Ahankara or the body, right?
No, Paravidya does not change. Paravidya remains as Para all the time.
No, because of Paravidya, the waking state changes. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Paravidya changes.
Yeah, correct. Because in the presence of the Paravidya, which means in the presence of consciousness, awareness, the waking state changes.
Correct. The
changes are happening at the Prakriti level, not at the Purusha level.
Correct. Agree. So my question is, taking that a slightly deeper, does the Paravidya has any effect on the sleeping state or the dream state?
Does not have any effect. No, not at all. It only illumines that you are that this mind is sleeping. That's all.
Okay, sure. I think that I get that.
Yeah, it only illumines the mind is dreaming. That it is illuminating the vasanas in that mind. That's all.
Okay.
In the waking state, it is just saying that this body and mind both are active. The difference between waking and dream is, in the waking, the sense organs are also active. In the sleep state, the sense organs are closed. Only the mind is projecting the vasanas.
Okay.
Otherwise, dream and waking are exactly the same. If suppose you just close your eyes, you will be dreaming. That's all.
Okay.
And it will be the same consciousness which will be giving you all the thoughts of, whatever you see, the way you see it in dream, you will see a waking dream. That's all.
Okay. Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Surinder is saying a yogi is called gunatita. He is acting in the nature Prakriti, but not affected by the guna. When yogi sleeps, he is in tamoguna. Perfect. Your understanding is correct. The yogi sleeps because of tamoguna. Ajnani sleeps because of tamoguna. In the sleep state, there is no difference between a yogi and a ajnani. It is the guna which is responsible for the sleep state of the body and mind. That's a correct understanding. Anybody else has a question? Yeah, Ramkumar, you have any question?
In some subconscious level.
Yeah.
Subconscious, that is, half asleep and half awake.
Yes.
Morning you have. What type of gunas do you have in that? Any idea?
It is a mixture of the same gunas. It could be a little bit of rajas and a little bit of sattva. It's a mixture only.
Mixture.
The percentage of the rajas will be less. The percentage of the sattva will be slightly more. That's all. You see, the rajas, what they say is the sleep state is 100% tamoguna. Dream is 100% rajoguna, 100%. That means you are only seeing the mind is extremely active and it's projecting a total image of a universe in dream. Whereas in the sleep state, in the waking state, it is supposed to be sattva guna because the knowledge is happening in the waking state. The sense organs are open, it is giving you the knowledge. So it is pradhanam. Sattva is pradhanam in the waking state, rajo pradhanam in the dream state, tamo pradhanam in the sleep state. What happens in between sleep and in between dream or in between sleep and waking is only the percentage will vary. That's all.
Because your concentration level goes very high in a subconscious state. When your mind is in a subconscious state,
yes.
If I am able to hear a lecture, I am able to hear 100%.
Yes.
Because in a waking state, my mind goes for a walk.
Absolutely. Yeah. See, you have lost consciousness of the entire world and you're focusing on my talk. So the breathing is going on and your mind is focused. That is what is the sattva guna. See, the knowledge oriented. That means you have been able to drop the rajas in the mind and you have been able to focus and keep the mind without the rajoguna and with 80% sattva guna. There is another person who has got 80% rajoguna. He'll be listening in the talk at the same time he'll be looking at his mobile and seeing the messages. So that is rajoguna. You see, that is how the percentage of the gunas will change. And it will happen to all of us. It's a very natural phenomena which happens Don't worry if suddenly you feel very restless. Don't worry if you feel suddenly very lazy also. At that time, you just say, my mind wants to have rest. It is the nature of the mind. Let it rest. Suppose you get up in the morning and you say, wow, what a beautiful day it is. I want to read the Upanishads and I want to read Mandukya or Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter again. Let me go through it. That is Sattva Guna. Be aware. Be aware of these three moods of the mind. It is for our own knowledge we are learning this 14th chapter. It is only to learn our own mind, the idiosyncrasies of the mind. And by the time you complete the 14th chapter, you will love this chapter, because after this chapter's deep knowledge on this, you will see that I am in better control of the mind. Happens to everybody who has gone through the 14th chapter. It makes a huge difference in their life. Okay, thank you very much. If anybody else has a question? Okay, if there are no questions, we'll catch up next week and we'll see the 4th verse. Thank you. Hari Om. Good night.
Night.
Thank you, Shekhar-ji. Good night.
Okay, thank you, Uma. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Good night.
Thank you.